Good evening. My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm going to present to you today the impact of what numbers and 4 decimals has not only on our society but also on the world that we live in today. If we go all the way back to the year of 1978, amazing.
By the company of Xerox. We understand the Xerox PARC was one of the biggest think tanks that were around. It was in this year, the same year that I was born, that Xerox PARC actually created a set of numbers and a few decimal places that is still having a huge impact for us today. What was actually created on that day was what was referred to later on as the Internet Protocol. Now, the Internet Protocol by itself is not much of anything. It's only when you combine Internet Protocol along with the TCP, which is the Transmission Control Protocol, that it's really very effective and is very well recognized in today. So what I want to do is just explain to you exactly what is Internet Protocol, what changes have taken place with Internet Protocol, and really how does it impact our society today. So what Internet Protocol is really just a way of addressing network computers or network devices. It was a way for Xerox to really be able to connect and communicate with all of their network devices. This Internet Protocol, or IP as it's sometimes referred to, is the way in which the address of a computer is able to send information to another address of a computer. What it is really just 4 decimal places. And before each of those 4 decimal places, there are a series of numbers ranging from 0 to 255. If you'll take a look at the attached image, you'll see that it's not much to it. But what we have to understand is that when we use these decimal places and numbers, it serves as basically the postal address for network computers. Now, believe it or not much has changed from when Xerox first implemented this IP or Internet Protocol. Some people have asked in the past what happened to the previous versions, and maybe let me back up and explain this. When Internet Protocol first went live, Internet Protocol had adopted the acceptable use of Internet Protocol version 4. This was in 1978, so if there's a version 4, obviously that means there had to be a version 3 and a version 2 and a version 1. The reason we don't really see much of version 3, version 2, and version 1 is because prior to 1978, or actually prior to 1979, these versions were standalone. So it wasn't until 1979 when they realized that, hey, we need to take Internet Protocol version 4 and combine it with TCP, and we'll be able to effectively communicate with devices. It's through these devices or these Internet Protocol addresses that computers are able to effectively communicate with one another. Such things, I have a number of devices here in my house, from the laptop that I'm using to the desktop, to even tablets or smartphones, even smart televisions. everything in our house, as long as it's networked within the same local area, has an IP address or an internet protocol. You see, this internet protocol is what really has been able to impact the world. But before I go in to explain to you how it's actually impacted the world and how it's affected our society in such a way, we have to understand that there is actually another version that is gaining some popularity, and because of the necessity of it, and that's Internet Protocol version 6. Internet Protocol version 6 is very much the same as Internet Protocol version 4. The only difference is that you actually have, instead of 4 decimal places, you now have 6 decimal places. Again, the numbers ranging from 0 to 255, but now with 6 decimal places. The reason for this is because we have so many connected devices in the world today that addresses were running out. So they had to expand it. Adding those 2 extra decimal places in those numbers allows us to easily have a number of possibilities available to be able to use and leverage. Now, just a few minutes or just a quick note as to how Internet Protocol has really affected the world. Believe it or not, we still use it today. You may not realize you're using it, but every day that you go to the web and you type in www.google.com, you're actually leveraging this Internet Protocol. How? Well, behind the scenes, even though you've keyed in www.google.com, behind the scenes, that database is linked to a specific IP address for google.com. So what happens is the computer searches the database, the global database of IP addresses, and then it says, okay, here is the IP address for google.com or the Internet Protocol address for google.com. And as a result, it allows your computer, which is sitting at your local area network IP address, and it's also sitting at a internet service provider IP address. It allows that address to then communicate to Google's IP address and get the information that we tried to receive. Maybe it's the search for a new computer, or maybe it's just simply the newest and greatest recipe for liver. I don't know. Either way, Internet Protocol that was created by the Xerox Corporation back in 1978 is still having a major effect on the world in which we live today. And really, without it, our world would not function that well. It would be extremely